Hello? Hello? Okay, there we go. Fantastic. Let's see if the stream can actually hear me now. For some reason, it wasn't working for a second. I think it's because I have my OBS set up as well. But as now, maybe it is actually working. How's everyone doing today? We got some fun stuff to talk about. We got some hype going on. We finally got some story content that we've been waiting for. So give me a minute to send out some links, and then we will get to the actual chats as designated. But as we can, we'll just see things progress. We will see where things go from here. So let me just send out some links. Hopefully it won't take very long, and then we can actually talk about this stuff. We finally got Acnologia's backstory. I was super hyped about. We actually ended up seeing what drove him to become who he was, which I thought was a really interesting story. Not only because we saw the tale of where he came from. We got to see both why he ended up becoming the thing that he hated most, because he even took the name of what he hated most, and both in name and actions, he ended up becoming just that presence that he despised, which I thought was really cool from a very, very well established story aspect, in my opinion. And it obviously could have been a lot more drawn out. I'm wondering if we could get a volume spin-off, maybe some form of, I guess it would just be a guidance at that point of Acnologia, maybe, hopefully, one day. But if not, I mean, we can get a pretty good layout from just this chapter, or not this chapter. These what was it, 8-minute total, backstory, because we can relate it to multiple other parts within the story, and how exactly it relates to how exactly it ties into his character. We know when the dragons left, what happened. They ran into all the dragon slayers, and the dragons that were pro-human and anti-human all at war, and that paranoia just really kind of got to them as they came back all messed the hell up. But I just really appreciated that aspect, and even we didn't need to get a kind of peer over an explanation of stuff we already knew. At least you should know if you're this far into the series. It'd be kind of weird if you got all the way in and then you're like, man, I wonder how come they got messed up when they went over there. What happened? But yeah, let me get to the comments. Let me see what you guys have to say today. And then we will, hoping that I don't get far behind, but I'll maybe see. I think Lavilia, one second. Do you think Lavilia will get what's coming to her? Because I think other B-Cubes sue that. No. Again, Lavilia's not evil. She doesn't come off as some vile individual. She's mean, but that's it. She's like a sitcom bully. Every single time she does stuff, all she does is say mean things to Rebecca, or high school pranks. I mean, she's not even, she doesn't come off as somebody that's just a villain. She's just mean. I hope Eden Zero catches up with Samurai 8 in terms of power levels. I mean, power levels aren't too important. I mean, in reality, Mother should be stronger than anyone right now that's shown in Samurai 8, because she's supposed to be bigger than any planet. So, as they are now, I mean, really what's stopping me from just swatting one of these guys? But also, the chronophage as well. I mean, pretty impressive. Especially because, the chronophage is made up of, just some time-eating, weird cosmic being. So unless you have some form of ability to consume time, Acnologia, you're probably not doing too much against him. What's up, Jared Punch? How's it going? I hope she becomes a villain at the end of the story. I think he'll be much more of an anti-hero. Maybe anti-villain. Anti-villain is a possibility. Do you think ending a fairy tale right? Because a lot of people hated it. I mean, the series is still going. There isn't an ending. The series is still active. If she became a villain, it would be so much cooler. Again, I don't think villain. I'm going with anti-villain at worst, and I mean worst isn't bad guy, not as a bad ending. She definitely becoming a villain. Ain't becoming a villain because there are ways to work around it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, anti-villain. He's a good guy, bad guy at the same time. Not obviously an anti-hero. They'll do heroic things for good guy purposes, or they'll do good things with bad guy methods. Or as you get an anti-villain. He'd just be a nicer villain, but he's still doing bad stuff, Yeah, what's up, JK Network? How's it going? What's funny is Arsenal is the name of a DC character, and yet obviously here Mishima was going for an Iron Man-esque design and kind of thing, but he's got a Kamen Rider helmet, which I thought was pretty cool. How do you feel about Acnologia's backstory? I did a video on it. You can go check it out. It's on my channel. Yeah, what's up, Joshua? Like, acting like killing the guy who sacrifices people to dragons is pretty savage. Yeah, it makes sense because we knew one of the questions was if Acnologia, hates dragons and he wants to destroy dragons, then what is the reason that he, hated humans as well? He wanted to get rid of humans. Okay, we found that out. He also hated any humans that contributed to the whole issue with the dragons. As long as they were tying in, he saw them as just as bad, if not worse. Oh, dude, him tearing open that one dragon's head like split clean was pretty intense. Like that was very. I mean, like it's all there's obviously darker stuff out there, but that's like dark for Hiromashima. Like he does like he can do some darker stories, but he's never been like a guy of like gore and like crazy like graphic stuff like that. But that was pretty intense. Am I gonna read the Yuno novel? If I can, I mean, I would need it to be anime, or I would need it to either get put in the anime or get in the official translation. So I mean, there's still like two novels. I think one of them was made into an anime episode, but I don't think both have, at least that I can remember. But yeah, I would need some way to do it because I'm not going to be able to read the Japanese novel if it's not either translated or made into English. I like the seven dragon. I like the seven flame dragon mode. It's colors of the rainbow. I thought it was really cool the way that they presented it in the anime. The way that like their energy went into Natsu like a dragon. Like each one of them was a big kind of like flying dragon into his power. I mean, it's weird the rainbowness, but at the same time, it looks cool. I mean, it's weird but cool at the same time, so I can appreciate it. So at least there's that. We at least get that aspect of it. Die human or live long enough to become the Black Dragon of the Apocalypse. Yeah, the ender of eras. The mighty Acnologia. I hope Acnologia gets a side story manga about his adventures and life before Sirius Island. That's, again, I would love to have some form of guidance about him. Some form of short story, even if it's a volume and we just get some adventures of him, just going around killing dragons. It's the way that I think we could still get Acnologia in the story is through flashbacks of the dragon gods, any encounters that they had. I'm assuming that Alderaan is going to. It's either going to be Alderaan or Vierness. In my belief, will be known as the oldest one. Maybe Vierness. Obviously, Alderaan's the biggest, and the trees grow over time. Maybe he'll just be the oldest in that aspect. But maybe I'm still putting in the maybe of Vierness because he's gold. Gold doesn't age. Maybe like a gold dragon lives absurdly longer or just doesn't age. As long as they're not killed, they'll just live forever. Maybe, I don't know. I'm curious about that one. And you can find out more about Acnologia through the stories of these dragon gods, or maybe even any character that could somehow live up to that point, or really any character that live in that gap. Like we could get something from Toka, like the White Witch, maybe explaining why she was a lot more quiet until recently. Obviously, with Acnologia and Zeref gone, she's got a lot more room to roam. Brains maybe ended too soon, but still way better than compared to the trash heap that is Arc 5. I don't remember the Arc 5's ending. I need to go rewatch it. I really like the plot twist with Zark. I thought that was really cool, and I like how he was just like this dueling raid boss that people kept going against. But I don't remember the full ending, so I'd have to go back to it. I remember really liking Arc 5 up until near the end, and I don't remember if I didn't like it, but I know obviously the fact I don't remember it very well, that it's probably not too strong in my memory. So we'll see that one. Natsu is not weak. He's even more badass now. Zark versus Acnologia. Zark would win. Zark was so powerful he was pulling universes together just by existing. He was absurd. He was absurdly powerful. And we'll get to see Toka Ignia in the last episode, just like in Dragon Cry. There's speculation of that. The question is, obviously if they want to set up there being 100 Years Quest anime, they would probably put it in the last episode. I'm hoping they don't, only because I want it to be done by a different studio. I don't want A1 to do it. Obviously, we saw this episode that A1, like, either them or whoever they outsourced to did a good job in a lot of scenes, but I can't take Fairy Tail getting another bad season. Like, there are some good parts in every season, but really, like, this season especially, like, we had so many MS Paint looking scenes and stop panels, and it really didn't look good a lot of times in this whole season for the anime, and that was just really sad. It was unfortunate, especially like when we were getting towards the end, but now we are, getting for the last two episodes some good animation, so at least there's that. I would like it to be seasonal for one. It has to be seasonal. It can't work if it's not seasonal. Year round will not work with 100 Years Quest, obviously, because it is bi-weekly, and we're only 34 chapters in. Like, you would get caught up with the manga so fast, and unless you just wanted to like extend a living hell out of each arc, which I mean you could do, you could easily do, but I don't want that. I would rather it be actually handled well. I mean, there's the hardships of a weekly, but the fact that there's not a lot of material for them to work on at the moment, I don't think they could, even if they wanted to. They would have to stretch it out like drastically. They would have to add in a bunch of characters each dragon like fight, a bunch of different dragon eaters and members of each dragon's group. They would have to add in. They would have to prolong like journeys in between, like meeting dragon gods. It wouldn't feel the same if it's weekly. It would be very weird. What's your favorite anime manga? My favorite manga is Fairy Tail. My favorite anime is Yu-Gi-Oh. I love both. Regardless, Rax, how do you feel about the ending of the first Fairy Tail series? If you don't count, so if you're just talking about the 545, the thing that obviously I was upset about, the pacing after Universe 1 went off drastically went up. There was a large pace increase. Anvil got beaten very quickly. We had multiple members of the Spriggan brought back, but then they were off-paneled or beaten very quickly. Irene had a really good display. I didn't like that she was only in her dragon form for like 30 seconds. And then August, I don't know what was up with Hiramashima in August, but he just like kind of... He got to at least have a cool last couple bits, but like... The dude didn't even get to be on a volume cover. Like, he should have got his own volume cover. He was the leader of the Spriggan 12. He got no love from Mishima. I like the Zera fight. I do really like the Zera fight. My problems, though, heavily were in... problems, yet at the same time, some appreciation for the Acnologia fight, because it was too short, and in the manga version, there wasn't a lot of fighting. And the thing that I liked about it, though, that I was very happy, is they beat him through things that were all established in the series. They were already built up. They were already in place. So it didn't kind of just being like, well, I wrote myself into a corner with this bad guy, and the series is rushing all of a sudden, so I'll just make something up. That was one of the things that, even though I love Bleach, the ending to like how they beat Yacht was very silly. Like they just had this armor or this metal arrowhead that stopped his power, and it's like, this thing, I doubt it was Kubo's original plan. He rushed a little bit. Not his fault. He was having shoulder issues and whatnot. But with Mishima, it just seemed like it seemed like he wanted to get it to quote ending, because the thing is, they already knew going into Alvarez that 100 Years Quest, like they were getting 100 Years Quest all set up and they had the plans for it, and so like he didn't just continue it after that arc. He in my theory is that he wanted to get the series quote-unquote ended so he can re-put it under a different label, because we know like immediately after the main Fairy Tail run ended, he got a different staff, he got a different editor. There were some hints that he didn't get along with his editor, and I'm curious if he has issues with the anime, because the anime has a lot of scenes that are just, people have brought it up to him. People have brought it up to the guy that like they make the anime look really chunky. I remember when Seven Deadly Sins anime first came out, there were people upset that like their anime looked really good. And what's funny is season 1 looks really good, but season 2 of Seven Deadly Sins is kind of chunky too. But like people were upset that like they've had all this Fairy Tail stuff, and Fairy Tail was in a state of looking so chunky, and then you have Seven Deadly Sins and stuff that was just looking really good. And I'm wondering if like Hiramashima, he seems like a nice guy. He seems like he wouldn't be someone to like be angry over them directly. You just try and find a lot more quiet of a solution. So that's why I think, because like obviously the animation studio has the rights to do, under contract, to do Fairy Tail the anime, but Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest is a whole different title, so it's gonna hopefully fall under a different studio, I'm hoping, especially the fact that it won't work weekly, it'll only work seasonal. I mean, like, I would much rather just them not do 100 Years Quest anime if the other option was to get a poor animation job, because like it's just so upsetting when you get to like a scene you're really hyped for, you've been waiting to see it animated for a long time, and it ends up just crap. Like it's such a sad feeling, and it bums me out every single time. Which do you think is better, Fairy Tail, Rave Master? I like Fairy Tail more. Rave Master, it has a better overall arcing story because it is just it's one overarching story. Like Fairy Tail's overarching story, you didn't even find out really until like it was all stuff in each arc, different arcs, but they all had information towards like Zareth, and then finally linking together once we got to him. With Rave Master, it was one just one set story with like some side attractions in there. I like Fairy Tail more. I like the characters more. I like the story. I thought it was a lot more free to work with. There's a lot more to really go off of because really in Rave Master, what is there really else to really kind of like mess around with other than the stuff with the Darkbring and Demon Card? I mean, you could possibly think up something over in Makai where all the monster people are, but like outside of that, like that was one of Hiromishima's like problems when he ended Rave Master is he didn't have anything established, so if he wanted to continue the story, he couldn't. So that's like with Fairy Tail, there's some stuff like the Dragon Gods were mentioned by August, but they were never really confirmed 100% if they were the exact thing. The 100 Years quest was brought up, but we didn't know if they were ever going to go on it. There were aspects that were laid out, but they didn't need to get addressed. Like, we still haven't seen the Abyss of Magic or the One Magic fully, so if we end up, like, if Hiroshima wanted to, then we could finally see those. Or Ankh-Saram. We haven't even seen what Ankh-Saram looks like. What if he's like, man, I really want to do another Fairy Tail movie. Oh, let's bring up Ankh-Saram, or, like, another arc after 100 Years quest. Maybe that'll be the thing. Like, anytime he wants to do a Fairy Tail story, it'll be now Fairy Tail and then title whatever the adventure's on. Like, I think that would be a really good idea for them to go off of. But I do like what Hiroshima like had planned in a lot of aspects, because that was like one of the things that was unfortunate about Wraith Master. Again, like once you finish the story, like what is there left to do? Like with Eden Zero, like whatever, when we find out the overarching plot of Eden Zero, whenever we get to like the much heavier stuff, you'd be like, whoa, we finished that. What's there to do now? It's like, there's a whole universe to go. They can travel around. They got space travel. There's tons of stuff that can happen. And I do really like that about it. Also, just really quick, I'm going to have to chill. Really appreciate if you guys, thumbs up the video, thumbs up the stream. Like it if you can. Maybe just like and retweet the tweet on the Twitter. Or just thumbs up this video. Maybe link it to somebody you know. And if you feel like it, you feel like you deserve it, you can throw me $1, either in Super Chat or donate to my Streamlabs. And I have set up a Patreon. I know I don't really expect anyone to set me as a patron, but as it is right now, I just felt like I should mention it. I gotta shill at least once per stream. But anyway, Fairy Tail haters gonna hate. Yeah, I mean, that's just a comment ongoing. They just like to be grumpy. How do you feel about Asta using a katana-like sword? I know that you do like bigger sword. The thing is, so I'm not a huge fan of the idea of Asta using a katana, but I'm not against it because all his swords are different. Like, you look at his third sword, it's kind of like a Spartan gladius. Looks a little bit like that. So we can have something in a katana, but you have to explain why it's a katana, because that's one of the things that bothered me about Seven Deadly Sins. So I am happy about the recent chapters. I've been enjoying it. But I was very curious of, like, the Demon King. We saw his original sword. It's like a giant, jagged greatsword. And Zeldris' sword was like an executioner's blade. And merged together, he has like a katana. Now, in a world where everything's mixed, it's like, okay, you can just have a katana. Who cares? But, like, katanas specifically come from Japan in Seven Deadly Sins, so it's like, why does this guy have a katana? And in Black Clover, we have the Land of the Sun, so it'd be like, why would Asta's sword be a katana? It would have to have some tie-in. It would have to be explainable in some way. But I also like, I prefer it if only Yami had a katana until we finally actually go to the Land of the Sun. I mean, unless Asta just starts collecting swords and then turns them into anti-magic weapons, like he can just take some sword and plow enough anti-magic into it that it becomes like an anti-magic blade and has some form of power. I don't know. There would have to be some form of tie-in towards the Land of the Sun somehow. It would just be weird for him to have a katana I'm hoping his next one is like a Zweihander, or however you pronounce that name. That would be really sick. And it would just be like maybe some form of extra heavy attacks, because we got like the swords, each different use, like his demon slaying sword is much more of just like a normal sword. I mean, we obviously got Black Divider, which is awesome. But for the most part, he could use it as a shield. He can do just straight magic cutting or deflecting. He's got his Demon Dweller sword, which can be used both for support, but also just ranged attacks. We got the Demon Annihilating sword, which is more of a kind of like debuff status affecting one. But like we need one that's just like a straight Asta buff, like his trump card, his big boy sword like thing. You're playing a game, you're playing, I don't know, Dark Souls. You got a bunch of different weapons, but if you're just like, man, I want to absolutely plow down an enemy, you know what big ass weapons to use. You can just imagine Asta as a Zweihander. Again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but you know the sword. It's got a second handle above where the crossguard is, and just imagine Asta swinging it and then grabbing that second handle, dual arm slamming it down, and just beating some big, heavy attack, large hit AoE kind of anti-magic sword. That would be pretty sick. Maybe I guess that would be a really cool thing for its ability. It's like AoE strikes. Just like he hits an area, bam, anti-magic like just splashes a zone. That'd be pretty sick. Just swords in general. I'm hoping his arts stay with much more. I mean, as long as I just don't like the idea with him with katana, because I also do like the fact that it's the Ami thing. But obviously, if we go to the Land of the Sun and there's some reason how Asta gets a katana, then I'd be fine with it. I just think it'd be kind of weird if he just had a katana and there was no reason that it was a katana. It just was like, well, I just felt like having Asta with a katana. I'd be like, I don't know. A little indifferent. I have a theory that a part of Acnologia's soul went to Natsu and he's been dwelling in there since. I mean, that would be really cool. So one thing that I thought would be an interesting thing is like if Acnologia's soul was somehow like kind of like that connected to Natsu. And the way that Natsu ends up becoming stronger, because we know he's going to get strong enough to, deal with Ignia at some point by himself. It's like Acnologia, pretty much connects himself to Natsu. And Natsu, the reason he wants Natsu to get stronger, like, he ends up helping him. Like, imagine Natsu's like, I need to get strong enough to defeat Ignia, but I don't know how. And he ends up, like, talking to Acnologia's soul. And Acnologia, pretty much, his reason is like, you beat me, so I want to make sure that you end up the strongest. So if somebody at least is stronger than me, it's only because they were actually the strongest. Like, I don't want to be number 3. I'll take number 2, but I don't want to be number 3 or number 4 or anything like that. I think that would just be kind of cool. I think that would be a neat thing to kind of like have with Acnologia. I don't know. There are 2 ways currently that I have theorized of how we could see him or like Ignia again. Obviously, Milky Way is one because of Wendy, but this character, this new guy, Wraith, I don't know where people are getting this theory, but I do like the theory, and I've been dipping my toes in the idea of like, because he's a ghost dragon, what if only people with dragon slaying magic or a dragon could see him? So what if he can actually see ghosts? Like, what if he could see dead characters? Like, it'd be really cool if we could see just some like randoms, and then like we'd see like, oh yeah, the spirits of the people you killed are always somehow, linked back to you somehow. And maybe we could, see what Acnologia, or maybe we could see Zareth again. We could just see any polar back character to really kind of like add some note of like how they're feeling now that they're dead. I don't know. I think it'd be neat. Some form of way Acnologia could kind of tie back. Let me see. Oh, hang on. I don't want to lose my spot. Scrolling up. Studio Period is trash. Studio Period like has good stuff. Like Bleach's anime is pretty solid, but like I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like the people are poorly budgeted, they have bad equipment, or what's going on. I don't think that the people in there are bad. I think it's the environment, probably the scheduling, probably not enough people on the project, maybe like budgets and stuff. I think them as a company figure is bad. I don't think the animators are bad. Because we've seen, like, you can take an animator, you give enough time and effort, they know what they're doing, they can make it seem look pretty sick. It just really depends. Where was I? There we go. I found my spot. Wait. Okay, I found it. Okay, so what's going to happen with Dekubako and Todoroki's bonding time together? I mean, they'll probably get some good synergy. I don't have, like, a lot of, like, large-scale expectations of, like, plan-outs ideas. I mean, obviously, they're going to learn superhero stuff. They're going to be working with Endeavor, and they're going to be probably, like, learning some good teamwork strategies. I am very curious to know, like, if they're Bakugo, and I'm much more curious to know how Bakugo and Endeavor are going to interact rather than Deku or Todoroki, because Bakugo and Endeavor obviously is a interesting combination of just clash of personalities. How do you feel if Studio Paragon handled 100 Years Quest anime? I would rather them not. Unless they were going to actually like put in a lot of effort, I don't want to see it animated by people like that. I'd rather it go to like what's Fire Force at Studio David or Wit or whatever, Ufotable, whoever is doing it. No, Ufotable is doing KNY right now. You know, I'd rather people who can do it like that. Like, I don't need every single scene to look good, but I need actual effort. I don't want still motions. I don't want like horrible looking MS Paint scenes. I don't want it. I just don't want like chunky stuff like that. They could have a prologue that tells what happened in the year after the Alvarez War, that pad the story until the manga gets far enough to do the actual 100 Years Quest. I mean, they could. There's a whole year between, obviously, Alvarez and 100 Years Quest. But, I mean, how much are they really gonna, are they gonna tell it like a straight year? Is it gonna be called Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest, and then we don't even get to the 100 Years Quest for like 30 to 40 episodes? Seasonal, I think, would work better. I would rather see it seasonal. Because otherwise, you have to just create a bunch of filler and whatnot. You gotta string it out way more than it needs to be, which is what I'm wanting them to avoid. Unless it's like Hiro Mishima, creates himself new arc to go into the series. Like he's the one directly adding the content and figure out how it works instead of you have animation people being like, well, let's just make stuff up. We don't care if it fits. We don't care if it contradicts things. I already have a good idea of what's about my top duels. UC versus I may end up being number one. I don't know about that. I mean, it's definitely looking to be a good duel. I don't know about number one. I think my favorite duel is still when Yugi and Kaiba duel Darts. I love that duel. I thought it was so cool. Darts was such an interesting villain. The decks there were both like on point. There was like even after the duel itself, there was actual monster battles like going on outside of the duel monster side of things, which was really sick. I love Waking the Dragons. That is just such a good arc. Rex, do you think Noelle's curse or her mother's curse could be? I'm guessing it has something to do with, this just straight magical control. Or something to do with, like, maybe the person cursed, maybe cursed Aesir to, like, oh, when the next child you have, your magic will also go to them. Maybe that's, like, how she also ended up dying. Like, her body was too weak after, having Noelle. Because, like, if maybe Noelle was born, maybe, like, oh, Noelle has just so much magical power because she has her mom stacked on it, and that's why, it's too much for her to handle. Which would also explain why Noelle is so powerful at a young age. It would explain, like, why Aesir, died during childbirth. And obviously, having all that power drained out of her body would be, like, a really heavy toll on her. So, I mean, something like that. I'm hoping it's nothing just like, oh yeah, some dude said, oh, your next kid's gonna have a rough time or something more. I want it to kind of like both relate to Aesir and Noelle at the same time. Because I think it'd be really cool if it's like Aesir knew that, like, having her next kid would kill her, but like, letting her child be born was more important to her than her own life. I think that would be a really cool character moment for this character that has been long since dead, and it would be, oh my god, could you imagine if Raditz went and resurrected her as a zombie? That'd break my heart just thinking about it. I never even considered it, but that will absolutely be so depressing if for some reason that he ends up bringing back in someone like Aesir, because it would make sense for him. She's clearly very powerful, but it would be such a sad moment for so many characters if they had to fight the zombie version of her. I'm gonna need to catch up on some things as soon as I can. I'm getting some stuff, getting ready. I've got some plans for some series all lined up. We'll see how that goes. So correct me if I'm wrong, but Future Rogue's time let Acnologia lose the planet along with other dragons. But why would Acnologia let other dragons live? No, he did it. And there's Future Lucy's timeline where the dragons all just kind of ran wild, which makes me wonder what Acnologia was doing, because we already know even 10,000 dragons is not enough for Acnologia. Maybe he was just having a fun time, just going around hunting dragons again, just enjoying the thrill of the hunt. And in Future Rogue's timeline, they shut the door and Acnologia ended up just taking out the planet anyway. Or was it reversed? No, it was Acnologia's. And then he ended up, Future Rogue ended up devising
dragon conquering magic, what did straight dragon domination magic, but obviously didn't work on Acnologia because Acnologia, unless you drastically weaken him, magic's not going to affect him. So that's how that went. In his time limit, it's just Acnologia, just one guy. And that's why, like, Acnologia has soloed the Fairy Tale Planet twice. He ended up ending the war, he killed off the vast majority of the dragons, and he ended up soloing the planet in Future Rogue's timeline, which includes stuff like Zareth and the Spriggan 12. We don't know about the Dragon Gods. I assume that at that point he'd be strong enough to defeat all of them. I think he can beat any of them 1v1, but obviously, like, grouped, he's, like, any of them teaming 2v1, he's probably going to lose. Unless he, space between Time Eat and Acnologia probably runs down all of them. Favorite ship of Black Clover? Asta Noel is pretty solid. Most of them are Asta and someone else because Asta's got his little harem. Charlotte's pretty good. I'm very looking forward to seeing who the girl that Finral finally gets paired up with. My boy Finral. Finral deserves a 10 out of 10 lady. Charlotte's good. Yeah, I like Charlotte too. Y'all, who y'all rather, Noel or Mimosa? I pick Noel. Noel is going to be the option. If you look at it from a standpoint of, like, combinational, like, as a skill, Noel is, Mimosa is a better pick if you were like, I want to pair them up for some form of mission. Because obviously Mimosa has a lot of really good support abilities. But Noel is way more powerful, and Noel is a better match for Asta than Mimosa is. That's just straight up the facts. Rave Master for the win. Oh yeah, Rave Master is awesome. I have to harass Sammy because SG Sammy, if you know him, he hasn't read Rave Master. He's watched most of his fairy tale knowledge is from the dubbed anime, and then he's read Eden Zero, but he has not touched Rave Master. I asked him, and he just read like a TLDR, and I was so upset. I was very disappointed. But yeah, Noel, I don't mind Mimosa. Yeah, I like Mimosa too. Roxy Ring, oh my god, the aggressive sound effects. I forgot to change the little picture. Oh, what's up, Smarty? I forgot to change the little picture. Well, dang it. It's still the little zombie running around, isn't it? It's still the little running zombie. Well, we'll figure it out at some point. I wanted to change it to something, but I completely forgot about that. I got everything else set up, and I've been doing stuff all week, but I completely forgot about it. But anyway, thank you for the 17 Danish, Corones? I think that's what it's pronounced, Smarty. I played Borderlands 3 for 7 straight hours. Damn. Listen, you need to go heavier than that. 7 hours is too light, my man, Smarty. We need to get you in for at least 12. Actually, I haven't checked recently, but I've mentioned this before. Whenever the Black Mesa full game comes out, because they're still doing the last part in Zen, I'm gonna stream that straight. I'm gonna play the whole game. I'm going to sit down, start the stream, and play it from the very beginning until the very end of the game, which will probably be like 12 to 13 hours. Whenever that comes out, I don't think it's already out. I'm gonna look it up really quick. Black Mesa for the HD version remastering of Half-Life. I checked like a month ago. I don't think it's finished. Oh, they just had a okay. It's almost there. We're getting there. They said the third quarter, I think, of this year, but they're still prolonged. As long as they get the game out, I don't care at some point. But anyway. Am I reading the My Hero Academia manga? I am in fact reading My Hero Academia. I've been reading My Hero Academia since it came out. I read chapter 1 when it first came out. Noel, my mostly I read that. Speaking of Abyss, really want to see what Abyss Break looks like. We will see Abyss Break probably never. I've always wanted to see Abyss Break. It's been in there since Phantom Lord, but I don't know if we will ever see it. Back when you found out Irene could turn into a dragon, did you believe in the old theory that Urza could have potentially turned into one as well? I didn't think Urza could, but I did believe that the fact that Urza's mother, developed in a dragon womb was one of the reasons I thought Urza was so powerful. She could have easily had dragon stuff at that point, but she doesn't but that's because when she was conceived, both her parents were human. So I think it'd be explainable, but not surprising that if she has or does not have dragon powers. We will see at some point, though. I like how she is now. I like her Dragon Enchanted Sword more than her having Dragon Slayer abilities. Because The dragon sword is pretty much fourth generation from what I can kind of like make out, because you got first, which is like you pretty much learned it from, either a dragon or a book. You have second gen, which is a Lacrima. You have third gen, which is 1 and 2 combined. Fourth, from what I can understand, is through an artificial item that has dragon slaying magic. Kind of like instead of Lacrima in the body, it's like if you had a dragon Lacrima in a sword. Like we know that, she's got dragon slayer magic enchanted in her swords from Wendy enchanting them. So it's like anybody who uses said dragon sword should potentially have dragon slaying magic, fourth generation, or like the Quartum Knights from Dragon Cry, and then the Dragon Eaters as a fifth gen. I'm very curious of what makes fifth gen different. My guess is that they can't eat their own elements, they can't eat their attribute, because that is the fact that you can gain power and stamina back from eating whatever your attribute is the greatest, like, it's the biggest aspect of a dragon slayer. It's a very important skill, but obviously motion sickness is the biggest weakness, and the 5th gen doesn't have motion sickness, and they're all weird attributes, so I think it would make sense if instead they just don't have their weakness. Like, they lost the big weakness, but they also lost the big perk. I think that would be a really good balance thing. By the way, F for Escanor, I think he's either going to die or he's going to be so damaged after this that he can never use Sunshine again and he can't fight anymore. I'd be okay with him not dying, but it looks like it's going to be that, at least somewhere down that alley. I'm going to miss Akira Ishida as Zeref, great voice actor, also did Wizardmon, Digimon. Always miss my boy Zeref. We still have one part as him with Zeref when we see Aelios. We'll get that little voice acting from him. Praise the Sun. Yeah, that's good. Ghidorah from King of the Monsters versus Base Acnologi. Is it the movie Ghidorah? If this is the movie Ghidorah, then obviously Acnologi's going to run through him. But I think the old movies, like the older Godzilla ones, or even the probably the anything outside of the current one that I remember. Because I know like Ghidorah is very powerful and like Godzilla power levels are crazy. At least, well, I think the only one that would be kind of crazy is the one from the anime movie, because that one like came out of a black hole. Probably that one. I think that one, and I think there's a comic book one that's like absurdly powerful. Who's my favorite One Piece character? Let me think. My favorite Straw Hat is Brook. It used to be Sanji, but like the time skip completely just turned Sanji into a joke, and he just gets his ass kicked every 30 seconds. Overall, I really like Zephyr, but he's not canon. He's from Film Z. I don't know. I kind of want to go with Brook. I really like Brook. I think Brook's really cool. I really like Hawkins as well. Hawkins is really neat. I really just like his design, his personality. I think he's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. I think Brook is probably my safest bet. I always really liked Brook. I just like that comedic yet very serious like switch between him. He's got a cool story. He's got a good power. He's got a good design. He's entertaining and yet badass at the same time. What if Shiki Punch created a black hole? I've mentioned this before. I would rather Shiki's stuff end up going down more of a line of mobility rather than power. Like, instead of a black hole, if we made a wormhole, so he had little portal gates. I think that would be cooler, and it would fit more to Shiki's style. I've talked about it a little bit. Haru was more of utility and variety. Natsu was straight, like, assault. He was attack and defense. And Shiki's is just raw mobility. He's obviously powerful. He's pretty strong. Like, we haven't seen any crazy power levels in Eden Zero yet from individuals. We've seen weapons and stuff, but Shiki's is very heavily centered over his level of mobility with gravity manipulation. Escanor versus Yami. I'm going to go with Escanor. Rax, do you agree if Kobe fights Boa, he's going to get... I think Kobe's going to win. I know I'm probably in the minority, but I have the feeling Kobe's going to win because Kobe was a captain, like, not very long ago, and now he's a rear admiral. And outside, let's be honest, in the warlords, there's like, I mean, really, Mihawk is the only one that like still holds like high level right now. Obviously, they're in the overall grand scheme of One Piece, like the warlords are pretty powerful. I mean, probably not Buggy, but when you compare it to like Vice Admiral and Rear Admiral level characters, where we're at now is the general character, like Hancock and crew are still strong, but it won't surprise me if Kobe is stronger than she is at the moment. At least that's my take. I mean, it could easily be proven wrong. Kobe takes a beating very often, but Kobe hype. I believe in the Kobe hype. I'm going to be in the minority in the choice, but I'm going to pick Kobe until otherwise shown. Why not Asta having a claymore instead of a katana? I don't know. A claymore, cool. Zweihander, however that's pronounced. I would rather have that. I think that'd be cooler. Infinite magic versus zero magic. Oh, that's just switched around. Depends. Lightning is an evil little shit. Oh, from Brains. Hey, he's a terrorist. Of course. So you know what's gotten over his backstory? Do you think it worse? Zeref or Acnologia had it way worse. Or not Acnologia. Zeref had it absurdly worse. He was straight cursed by a god, and like he couldn't find happiness no matter what he did. Acnologia could have been fine. Like after he killed a bunch of the dragons, he could have just been like, okay, now I'm gonna, just go live a happier life. He brought a lot of misery upon himself at that point, and that satiation and want for more bloodshed. I'm glad. Wonder what happened if Noelle got the water spirit. I mean, she's gonna for sure. I'm glad Shinra decided to tell his friends about his brother being one of the bad guys rather than keep it to himself. I mean, that was cool because he knew it was important. He knew if it was gonna come up, it had to be established with his whole crew. He obviously is a happy member of the Eighth, and he needed to keep everything going. Just for brains, not for the whole. For just brains and yeah. I mean, I really like to do with Bowman though. I thought that was really cool. Merrick was acting before it was cool. Merrick. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I don't really know what similarities you got from Merrick and Zeref or Acnologia. Eden Zero Space Werewolves. We need a good space studio to take up Eden Zero. Could ask to find a good teacher to help Asta use the swords better. Or he learned from Fonzo. Fonzo is a swordsman. He taught Asta some of the basics of swordsmanship. I think Valkyrie is dead for good. Yeah, she's dead. Because she had her core destroyed. So the thing about Hiramishima, he said that he likes doing fake-out deaths and implied deaths. But whenever he officially kills a character, he doesn't like to bring them back. Makarov was an only exception because he had two immortals cheat out the god of life and death and kind of like thin that boundary between the two worlds. And that's the only reason Makarov came back. And he was very kind of like on the fence about it because it went against a lot of his decisions. But he knew that killing two immortals like that needed to have some form of effect upon the world itself. And that obviously was bringing a dead person back to life. So I don't think Valkyrie's going to come back. I mean, we can get Valkyrie copies, but I don't think that Valkyrie, the original, is ever going to make it back into the story. Weiss is going to get that thing on his chest. That would be really cool. I'm hoping it'll either be that or some form of, like, he's got the more nanomech technology, and he'll maybe, like, collapse his hands together and, like, a big cannon will form around him, and he'll just, like, shoot some big energy blast. Did you see the newest Boruto chapter? What do you think about it? I mean, that was pretty... So I think... I mean, he's not Jigen, because Jigen is the host body. Whoever that the actual villain is he's possessed him. That guy was pretty powerful. I mean, he literally kicked Naruto and Sasuke outside of their kaiju forms, and then proceeded to kick the shit out of them further. I mean, he makes sense of being strong, because, like, the introduction of all the Otsutsuki people having a second, and Kaguya was such a disappointment, and this is going to help build face for her, because we know that they can merge together, and, if she's the lesser one out of the two, it'll make sense of why she wasn't as powerful as hyped up to be, and why this guy is. And maybe, and Kaguya's still out there. Like, she's sealed up. I mean, he could go get her, and then absorb her, and then become a full self like Momoshiki did. So, I mean, that'll also help a lot of damage control of her performance at the in Naruto. It would help a lot. I heard Boruto is dealing with some time travel stuff. I don't think it's canon, but I think it's more of just like a fun OVA because he's gonna like go meet Kid Naruto because Naruto's 20th anniversary. What's your favorite part about Asta and Yuno versus Lake battle? I love the part when Asta bursts out of the base, out of the Eye of the Midnight Sun's base, and you just see that stream of you just see that black stream with the red flash of light, and then that shockwave around it once he leaves the base fully and then goes to help Yuno. I thought that was great. I just love that extra little scene of it, just seeing that full view of him just racing towards him. I think we'll get more alien stuff in Eden Zero later on in the series, right? Oh, I think we will. Yeah, I'm hoping. I wanted to get some form of, special alien race. The fact that, oh, who's this guy? I don't know. But then they find out he's like, oh, he's from this planet, and it's like, oh shit. Yeah, we don't want to mess with that guy just because specifically, a relation to this planet means like bad news. Some form of like super warrior race, or maybe some form of just like an absurd species that are maybe like really broken. Also, yeah, I'm just getting back to where it was. Thank you for the super chat there, Smarty. How's it going with you, though? Are you feeling better? I know you've been sick lately. I will protect Homura. Oh, yeah, I love Homura. I like Homura more than Rebecca at the moment. Right, for Arsenal to kick some ass. I want to see what weapons, because at the first I was thinking, oh, maybe it's just like a enhancement suit, like it's just a straight. Because there weren't any signs of weapons, but obviously, the way that Wise is, he can reconstruct weapons and stuff. But it says, armor. It was like steel and weaponry, so he's gonna have weapons built into it. We're gonna see him like, for like, oh, hey, a car's nearby, reforge it into like a big plasma cannon or something. I'm hoping for it. I really want it to happen. So we should be getting spoilers soon. Seven Deadly Sin spoilers happened way early this week. Like, we got the translation on like Friday. I mean, usually it doesn't come out till like Monday. I think it was just the hype for the Escanor stuff really helped a lot. You think the Starshines has any fighting capabilities against you wrote Drinking Joe, but Draken Joe? No. I mean, they probably have ways to prevent them from the ship, like systems, but neither Sister Witch or Hermit seem like fighting characters. And it's going to be a little bit rough for them. They're going to need to just move the ship, get out of the vicinity, jump away, warp to a different location. They're going to have to be careful, because if Draken Joe gets on the ship, then that ship is getting stolen. Do you think of Broken No Heroes theory that Lick swords were actually physical artifacts from the dwarves? I've talked about that. I had the same theory. So there's two kind of ideas that have been floating around in my head. Is one made from the dwarves, because one of the things about dwarves in fiction, they're craftsmen, and it could easily have made them and then somehow integrated them into the grimoire. But my other theory is like, what if that's one of the special things about them? It's like because his is Lix wasn't just like it was like blade magic. It was sword magic specifically, and Yami could put magic. He can channel it into his sword. But obviously his level of skill isn't as up to the same level as Licht. So like, what if Asta or Licht could just take a sword and then use enough power onto it to where it links into their book? Because obviously, once you can find magic, you can find tools and weapons, and they will end up linking to your book. Like what found, you found Sylph, he found the Wind Spirit with Bell, and it merged into him. When Asta finds one of his swords, it ends up going back into his book, and then it's linked into it. Asta could easily end up, I get the sword made for me. All right, well, maybe I'm going to channel enough anti-magic into it to permanently turn it into an anti-magic sword, and then link it to his book. I think that would also just be a really cool thing for him in general. It would be like a cool explanation ability, but also it would be a cool way to always give Asta new swords. Whether or not it could be like, imagine he gets anti-magic swords, but there are generic ones, and then there are specific ones. Like the ones he has now are specific ones with special abilities versus ones that are just like, oh, it's a sword with anti-magic energy put into it. And like, maybe they're kind of like the demon slaying sword, but they're not as like potent. Maybe they're not as durable. And you could just have like a mass amount of them. I don't know. I'm thinking of some anti-magic unlimited blade work shit in the making. Incidentally, the same day he posted that video, I was theorizing Lick's magic was actually pure magic, what explains when it's corrupted by demonic influence, it becomes anti-magic. Yeah, I still think it has something to do with when he became a demon, when Lick became a demon and then died. So, where did the demon side go? I think that's possibly where the anti-magic devil stems from. I wonder what will happen to Shiki and crew after the whole Valkyrie and the Dragon Joe problem. I mean, after this, they should be ready to leave the Sakura Cosmos, because the Rascunces Galactica are specifically set up around the Sakura Cosmos. I mean, they can leave as well. I mean, Dragon Joe should have the capabilities to leave the Cosmos, but we should at least get one full one before we head out. And I'm very curious to know what the other Cosmoses are like. Like, maybe the other ones are just like not as explored, like there's way less people, but all the people out there are more dangerous. Maybe it's just way less populated, or it's a lot of untapped civilizations that maybe haven't really experienced space travel folk yet. I don't know. How powerful do you think Drac and Joe crew is? I mean, it's kind of hard to gauge because we haven't seen characters of like that upper level yet. Like with Garrett, Baku, and Nino, we're actually seeing like strong characters. Because up until this point, we've really been fighting characters that were we saw them fight characters, but they were much more of like measuring sticks. You were seeing characters that were getting beaten for the display of either here's what a character is capable of, or character moments. Whereas now, obviously, these guys are actually pretty powerful and should be able to fight with the main cast fairly well. Like even with Kurenai, Shiki went to full normal attack punch the Scarlet Dragoon Knight, and it didn't do any damage from his basic attack. Like normally, like it hits basic attack and it does some pretty significant damage. Obviously, these guys are different. Where was it? What exactly do you think Arsenal could do? I think it generally is in base suit is like an enhancement suit, but he's going to be able to like reconstruct it around for different weapons. I just think of that nanotech, either Blue Beetle or that nanotech Iron Man suit kind of like thing. It's just a full around reshaping of weapons using I mean, in their cases you have like nanotechnology, but here he has ether gear. Austin needs to get a good 1v1 fight. He wins a lot of fights with help. I mean, yeah, that was one of the things up until this point. It was much more established over teamwork, effort battles. But now Asta, and the crew are getting pulled away from the Clover Kingdom, and they're going to be a lot more isolated and on their own. I mean, and now it's a good time for him to be getting 1v1 fights. Because now that, he's strong enough that he should be able to 1v1 characters instead of just, running into boss battles. Which, again, it's fun to see all the teamwork matches in Black Clover, but I do agree that Austin needs to get some 1v1 fights soon. Who's your favorite Ignis and Brains? Yeah, I and Flame are pretty much mine too as well. Team Ruby in the current cast in Volume 6 versus 1A. I mean, Deku could pretty much run the train on them. I mean, they're not very powerful in comparison. And, any of their... Because all their semblances aren't very good compared to a lot of the powers. Like Yang's isn't very useful in this. I mean, she's gonna get just outclassed and smashed by Deku. You have all the little clones by Blake, but that gets easily defeated by AoE. I mean, Wise is so uncoordinated in fights that she's probably gonna run into a wall and pass out. And Ruby's just what speed, and then her Silver Eyes aren't gonna do shit to Non-Grim. So I mean. They're gonna get wrecked. Rex, do you think you ship Shinra if you had to choose? I mean, really, who does he have other than Tamaki? Brooker's a great character. Favorite One Piece moment? So favorite moment and saddest moment are still for me. If you just go look up Zephyr dying in Film Z, I mean, it's not canon, which is a shame because it was such a good scene. It was both badass and sad at the same time, and the music really helped on it as well. Hibana or Hancock? Oh, Hibana. That's no question. Hope more to Stone Crimson Woman and calls Valkyrie her true mother. I mean, we could get something like that. I mean, it's clear that Kurenai does not care at all. She's not a nice lady. I mean, if she had some form of semblance of kindness, it's gone at this point. She's not a good person. I think Homura will pull up to fight her. I mean, she's got to get her own fight because we still have Nino and Garrett to fight, and Baku looks like he's going to be fighting Wise. I mean, who's Homura gonna? I mean, Homura could probably fight Garrett, maybe. Baku, maybe. Maybe Jin will show up. I've missed Jin. I haven't seen him forever. Design-wise, Merrick kind of reminded me of Akilo. Yeah, I mean, he's got he's got a cloak and he's got dark skin, but that's really it. Which do with Bowman? Oh, yeah, the one with Playmaker, where he summoned Haya Drive Perfectron, and then here's Playmaker pulling out goddamn Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid. It was awesome. I feel like Homura wouldn't be okay with a replacement for Valkyrie. I mean, yeah, she was upset about the one on Mildiad. Maki is cool, like how she beats the shit out of Shannon Arthur. Well, yeah, she's just like a straight physical brawler, and then she's got her two little fire spirits, and her Iron Arrows are both really cool. I don't know if they've shown that in the anime yet. What part of Fairy Tail you didn't like? I'm not a huge fan of Endless. And if you count the anime, the worst part in it for me is the Daphne arc. I really don't like the Daphne arc. I'm glad it's not canon. I'll never count the events as canon unless Hiroshima says so. I mean, we saw her in that scene of the episode this week, but that doesn't mean her events themselves were canon. She had 2 big weird teddy bear things from her. I don't remember those being in her arc at all. So maybe it's the character, but it's not the same story. Kind of like with Shiki in One Piece, which would be kind of good comparable. I mean, in the One Piece one, it's unfortunate because then you lose all that story with the guy. But I'm 100% okay with losing the story of Daphne. I did not like her arc at all. I mean, it was only a couple of, but still, some of the great anime openings in 2019. Yeah, it's been pretty solid. 2019's been a pretty solid year. Tamaki's Lucky Loot Syndrome gets old at times, but I do find it funny. I like it. Listen, this isn't characters like looting her or anything. It's specifically her, like in mass, and she just has bad luck. I think it's more comedic than loot at a lot of times, but I don't care. I'll take my fan service. You can't stop me. Rekko's insane, beating the crap out of poor Tamaki and trying to turn children into infernals. I don't want to go too much into spoilers. You see one of the kids that, like, was very close to him later on, and he's pretty crazy, too. It'd be funny to see Hermit out-hack Drac and Joe's crew. I mean, well, she can, because we know that's her thing, and she's a big hacker, but they'll probably just board the ship physically, and then just bust in, screw defense systems at that point. And really, what are you going to do at that point? And the F in the chat for Tamaki versus Rekka. I mean, yeah, she got the shit kicked out of her. Maybe introduce the dwarves and also get a new sword. I mean, possibly. We could see. We could see while it happens. Since Urza overcame Kyoka's sense curse, do you think that she could overcome Aizen's perfect hypnosis? Oh, no, I mean, the thing is with Aizen's, is it's control over all five senses, and Urza's was blanked out. So she could still do stuff. The thing about Aizen's is if you were an AoE kind of character, if you had AoE, you could overcome Aizen very quickly in that hypnosis because you just attack the whole zone. You just burst the whole zone because it's like, oh yeah, he can make you attack in a random direction. I mean, his is control over the five senses. It doesn't include like your abilities and attacks and stuff. It would just be like making you see stuff, making you smell stuff and whatnot. If you just straight raw attacked the ground and caught him in the AoE, then, you're good. I mean, Urza could probably do that, or Urza could just, mass blade the whole area. I mean, she could just close her eyes and fight instinctually and not use any of her senses and still, be able to do stuff. So I think she could. I mean, because the thing about that is an Urza exclusive feat, so you can't say any character in Fairy Tail probably could do it, but Urza more than likely could. King of Lightning complained that Eden Zero was just Fairy Tail in space. I mean, King of Lightning just likes to hop on complaint trains. He doesn't actually pay attention to anything in the stories. He just tries to go for a cringe trend. Again, if you go watch my video on Sting and why his surrender made a lot of sense to who he was and how it was established. I tried watching his video before I watched it before. I tried to rewatch it before I made the video. Just to kind of get his opinion again, and his just kind of came down to him complaining that he gave up and called him a pussy, and it's you didn't understand his character at all. You're just mad that he didn't fight without understanding who he was, and I don't like King of Lightning. The guy he only will hate on things if it can get him clout, if it can get a trend. He'll never hate on something if it will end up negative for him, and Fairy Tail in the West just has this annoying trend of people wanting to hate on it for fun, which luckily they don't do it much with Eden Zero because Eden Zero hasn't gotten an anime yet. It won't surprise me if people end up watching Eden Zero and then liking it and then trying to hate on it when they find out it's Hiro Mishima and then Fairy Tail, and then you find out they never actually touched Fairy Tail at all. They just know somebody that didn't like it, and they ended up getting their opinion from some YouTuber or some bullshit. But yeah, I don't like King of Lightning. Wonder what the Black Bulls versus All Might in Class 1A would go if they fought. I mean, the Black Bulls would run a train on them. That's not a fight. They would absolutely demolish them. Imagine if Kurnoid just came out at Drac and Joe with the Dragoon and he just one-shots her. I mean, he would probably mess... because his whole thing is alchemy. He could probably mess with a bunch of the wiring and stuff on the inside to make it non-functional. I mean, that would be a really cool, thing for him, if he just counters machines like that. So besides Yami and Asta, who do you think is the next strongest member? I'd say it's between Charmy, Noelle, or Luck. After them, I would go with either Charmy or Noelle. Yeah, I mean, Luck is speed, but I wouldn't put Luck in the top spots. I mean, Henry, I'd put Henry above Luck. Yeah, no, I'd go with Noel. Noel more than likely.
Since Madara fodder has all the tailed beasts alive, in base, where is the chances against Space Dragon Acnologia?
Well, no, Acnologia would murder the shit out of him. The thing about the Biju, the tailed beast, is outside of Karama, they're strong, but they're not like strong for Fairy Tail standards. Like they were able to blow up mountains, but that's like generic Fairy Tail dragon level. And Acnologia could absolutely he mauled them in hordes. So I don't see Madara standing up to him at all. Madara would get his head ripped off and just blasted into ash. Or whatever raw magic would really do. Probably just be raw energy, so you'd probably get some smoldering pile.
You heard the Area 51 raid failed.
I mean, yeah, 2 million people weren't going to go. They were just signing up for the memes.
I wish more people went just for fun. I mean, I knew that no one was going to raid onto it. Winged Dragon of Ra versus Acnologia. I mean, Winged Dragon of Ra, I mean, he's the god of the sun. He's literally like a cosmic, like, divine being. Yu-Gi-Oh! Gods are actual gods. Like, they're a lot more powerful than people give them credit for. Where was Marity all that time?
I don't know, running around doing stuff with Jalal.
Where was a lot of...
I mean, she's not much of a fighter. She's a pretty good... She's got a good hacks and she's good support. I mean, really, the biggest aspect of her power is the fact she can cheap run unison raids with her, sense link.
I don't know a lot of fights that she would have been really helpful in up until that point. I mean, she's able to come in and be helpful in the end, so it's good for her. Black Bolts is for Area 51. I mean, Yami would just bust in by himself. I honestly think Yami would not be so dense to Charlotte's feelings and Asta assuming its trust. I mean, that's because Yami, like, takes stuff a lot at face value, whereas Asta, like, can understand people to a degree. We already know that. He just doesn't get the full grasp of it. He's just kind of like, maybe. Do you think Connor will end up betraying the crew?
It'd be really cool if Connor ended up as, like, one of, like, a different Erasmus Galactica's crew. I mean, I don't think he will as of right now. He seems like a pretty nice guy, but I would like it if it turns out he is a villain. There's not enough evidence yet, but I would like it if that happened. I do agree on that. Team 7 versus Area 51. I mean, Team 7 didn't show up. That was part of the problem. Black Bulls versus post-war arc Team 7. I mean, isn't that the Shinobi War? Isn't that, like, near the end of the series? They're going to kill them. Kakashi versus Marleon. Again, you're setting up these Black Clover characters for slaughter. Why would you do this? It's true that Ignil casually blew up a mountain. Oh, yeah, I scrolled up. No. Scroll. That without even trying to compare to the Tailed Beast. Well, that was in the anime. But you do see it from Mother Glare in and near the end of the Grand Magic game. She just nukes a part of a mountain range from like a non-charged roar. Ignil's was big, but you don't see it destroy a mountain. It should be far more potent in level of power than Mother Glare's. So, and then you look at like Ikuzunagi, and he cleaved to the horizon and 2 mountains in the process, and he's fodder to like a dragon. So, and you really compare like the two of them, Naruto versus Natsu. Naruto. So, as of right now, my nose is a little stuffed up. As of right now, in terms of power, like display, I think Naruto has a higher level of power, but Natsu counters him, and Naruto already capped. Like, he's not getting stronger than he is. Like, there's nothing to suggest that he'll keep getting stronger. Natsu is still getting more powerful, and one of the things that really screws over Naruto is his chakra cloak is literally made of what is flammable to Natsu, because Natsu can burn magic. You would treat magical power, and chakra the same. Energy equalization is just a standard. So, if Natsu gets to that point of all he would have to do is get Savage Dragon Fire and then brush up against Naruto with his with that flame, and Naruto's gonna burn into a crisp. I think Naruto at the moment would win more times than Natsu, but I think in the end Natsu is gonna be way more powerful because Natsu at the end is gonna be Dragon God level, so Naruto will just be screwed over at that point. We will see, though. We will see as it goes. I wish Licht would have lived longer to teach Asta something about the swords. I mean, this is going to be cooler because now we're going to see Asta use the knowledge that he has to try and develop a way to use it, similar to, like, He got the anti-magic form in the Witch's Forest arc, but he didn't get told how to use it. He was able to put two and two together and develop it himself, which I think will be cooler for him to devise and kind of just like think back, like, I remember that. How can I do that? And then figure out a plan for himself. Who's my Eden Zero wife? First off, it's Rax, not Rex. Homura is my favorite girl in Eden Zero right now. Noelle versus Sakura. Noelle's a million times better than gross old Sakura. Mashima already said Natsu would win. Did he really? I don't remember him ever mentioning that. Where did you read that? Well, Stompson's 30. Yeah, Sakura sucks. Who do you think is more intelligent, Aizen or Zeref? I'm gonna go with Zeref. I mean, Zeref not only like had more laid out of level of understanding, but he literally had like a way to gap points in time. I mean, Zeref literally invented time travel. He's a much more heavy scholar than Aizen too. Like, we know that Zeref like spent long time just studying and learning. I mean, he also learned how to create life. I mean, like the Hokyoku was one thing that Aizen couldn't do. That was an invention of Kisuke Urahara, and I mean, honestly, I feel like you put Zeref in there and he's gonna figure out how to make his own Hokyoku. I mean, really, it doesn't seem out of his range. Yeah, but come on. I don't know. I would go with that for now, though. What do you think? I got distracted. I was reading something real quick. Hokyoku Aizen versus Braveheart Zeref. Zeref can be completely destroyed and then just reverse on himself. And then he's got a large arsenal. One of the things that Zeref has that is very forgotten about, of like how broken he is Fairy Heart was a power Mavis had. And he just straight pulled that power out of her body and put it in his own. So one of his abilities, he can steal powers from people, not copy them, take their power physically from them and put it in his own body, which is pretty broken of an ability. And he did it instantly. He just instantly pulled it out. He drained her, he touched her for a few seconds, and then bam, took it and put it into himself. How do you think August could beat Irene in her dragon form? I mean, August has a much larger arsenal of magic. I imagine he knows he would learn how to use her abilities, including enchantments, because we know that you can, one of Irene's things is she can pull magic out of bodies, and she can cancel out statuses onto people. I mean, August should be able to learn those as well. Dragons should still be susceptible to just power that far exceeds theirs, so he drops Ars Magia and she's gonna fry. I mean, really, like, would it be hard for him to just copy and learn dragon slaying magic from her? No. That should be well within his realm of possibilities. Irene versus Yuya. I mean, Yuya, again, like, universal crazy stuff that started to happen because of Zark. Rax, what is your favorite season of JoJo? I've only gotten to part 3. I haven't gone to part 4 and beyond, but I really like part 2. From what I could tell, I'll like part 5 if I ever get to it. But I don't know. I enjoy JoJo, but I've never been like a huge JoJo hype guy. It's kind of like how I am with Legend of Zelda. Like, I'll play a Legend of Zelda game. I'll enjoy it. I know I will. But it's like I see it and it's like I'm not too excited about it. The upcoming one, what is it? Not Wind Waker. Link's Awakening remake. I am excited for it because I have played that game before and I did really like it. So I am excited for that. My favorite Zelda games, before anyone asks, are Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. I just really love those ones. I love the Game Boy layout for them, and then I love that you can beat one game and then you did that weird like little code thing, and then it would unlock extras in the other game and unlock like a whole extra level, and you could keep some of your weapons. That was pretty sick. Favorite JoJo memes? Oh, Speedwagon. I like the Speedwagon. Ruby memes. I don't know any Ruby memes, to be perfectly honest, off the top of my head. The Secret Joestar technique of running away. It's a solid technique. Plan C, run for the hills. Just get the hell out of there. You don't have time to risk dying. Does the current JoJo main character, has he done the running away thing? I don't know like the level of extension that it's gone to, but I know that it is an ongoing thing. I assume every JoJo has had it at least at one point. That's at least again an assumption. It just makes sense to me because I know it is a long running thing within the series. I hope that Araki hasn't forgotten about it. It's important. 1 second. There we go. I was just replying to something. I didn't want to have to subjugate you guys to hearing my loud clickety clack keyboard. Favorite Ruby waifu? I don't know. I just really liked Wise. I mean, it's unfortunate her character itself. Like, she gets a terrible treatment as a fighter, and she just like falls over a lot. And I feel bad for that kind of like display for her. But I like her design. I like her story. I think she's got cool powers and stuff. I wish more for her, but I don't know. We'll see how things go. It's sad because I'm not very hyped about the next season. I'm not paying for I'm not paying Rooster Teeth. I've been pretty upset with them over all the Vic Mignogna stuff, and I really disliked the way that they just cut quick ties without any proof or anything. I'm very much against the whole like cancel culture. I mean, if you find proof and there's evidence towards some dude, then yeah, obviously. But it's like just because somebody makes a rumor doesn't mean you'd be like, well, let's just get rid of them and risk their whole life and career. It's like, no, if you're gonna do something that crazy, then have some evidence behind it, and that goes towards all sides. What's up, Kinmano? How's it going, dude? Android 21 versus Pegasus Seiya. Isn't Saint Seiya really crazy powerful? I'm pretty sure they've got hacks too. That's one of the things that Dragon Ball lacks is they don't have a lot of hacks, so they can't deal with that. Some of those like crazy powers, like most of them is just like straight speed punches and big energy beams. Acnologia versus Krillin. I mean, has Krillin gotten any boosts that I'm unaware of? I think isn't Krillin still below planet level? I don't remember. What's Krillin's power level currently? I mean, I can't really take power levels seriously, but I can still kind of just like guess it, and I guess I would just be surprised, and then I'd be like, what has Krillin ever done to actually like be impressive? I don't think Krillin's really done anything ever in terms of like, man, Krillin did something impressive. Like, didn't he get like bopped by like Super Saiyan 1 Goku and then just get like knocked like 30 miles or something ridiculous? You know, before the Elf arc versus Bakugo, you know, would still clap the hell out of Bakugo. It would still be a quick smash. Like, that's not a fight right there. That's a complete total destruction. Just imagine Android 21 8 beers for wins. Oh yeah, Android 21. I was thinking of 20. 21 is the female one from the games, right? He can struggle against base or Super Saiyan Blue Goku. Again, that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, the power scaling in Dragon Ball just doesn't make sense. Because it's like if Krillin could somehow keep up with Blue Goku, then how the living hell? Like he would be like, she should be able to mess with like with Beerus at that point, because like Beerus could still what if he went like 60% or something against the Red Goku, Super Saiyan God Goku. So if come on, God, it's silly. Universe versus Bakugo's no contest. Yeah, pre-Demon Dweller Sword Asta versus Deku. I mean, if you that's like what, like chapter 15 against current Deku? That's not fair. Goku's holding back. I mean, yeah, there's no way that Goku like even should remotely struggle against Krillin. I mean, honestly, his base version should be able to beat Krillin. Krillin gets no power-ups. His training, like, what does he even do for training? Does he just, like, hang out with Kami? I mean, Goku just trains, but he's, like, with Vegeta and Beerus. He's fighting absurdly powerful characters at his level, so. Asta with the X-Blade. I mean, that'd be ridiculous. Or Keyblade, rather. I was thinking X. I always thought X-Blade, but then I remembered, like, the way that you could say it is Key. And then, you know, finally got to Birth by Sleep and how they said it. Who's my favorite God Dragon or one that you're looking forward to the most? Ignia is in terms of design, I'm going to guess that in terms of design, Selene will be my favorite just because the idea of a moon dragon is really cool. As of right now, in terms of just design, I would probably go for Mercphobians because I think that big, cool, like, majestic serpentine dragon is really sick. I really like Ignia too. The one I'm looking forward to most is definitely Ignia because I'm really excited to see how it's played. You know, is the whole fact that you have his relationship to the main character, and I mentioned the possibility of what if Wendy uses Milky Way on Natsu's scarf and calls back Ignia, and Ignia ends up seeing Natsu again, but also he meets Ignil, or he calls back Ignia, he calls back Ignil, and Ignia meets his father for the first time. Ignil finds out he has a son, and now he's got two kids that hopefully he can see get along. I'm hoping some point after that fight. Ignia versus Drago for Bakuman. I don't know power levels of Bakuman at all. Remains of Time Aknologi versus Nappa. Is this just is it just a Saiyan saga? I'm gonna go with Aknologia at that point. Noelle's precious. I do really like Noelle. Noelle versus all the girls in My Hero Academia. Noelle's gonna run a train on him. She's gonna destroy him. Infusion Magic and Fairy Tail produces exponential power. I wonder if Ether Nano Fission would have a similar effect. Well, the way that was like the way that Wall was able to achieve Ethereon is he was using magical fission, which is the way that it was described. It's just normal nuclear fission, except instead of what was it, magnetism holding everything together, it was magic. So it's just the same thing as like nuclear fusion and stuff. Lots of crazy stuff. Drago versus War Greymon. Again, I don't know Drago's power levels. Current Asta versus current Deku. Asta would win. That's way stronger. Aknologia versus War Greymon. I would go with the Aknologia. I mean, obviously War Greymon's got like dragon countering stuff, but like, didn't War Greymon cap out at like destroying like something the size of Mount Fuji? I mean, Aknologia should be able to absolutely maul him at that point. I don't know. One second. Hey, can you stop laying on my keyboard while I'm doing things, please? My cat, I don't know. She decides that it's time to be affectionate whenever I'm streaming and lay on keyboards. Excuse me, I'm trying to do things. You better behave or I'll put you on the floor. Omnimon versus Aknologia. I mean, is Omnimon like a universal being? Isn't he like a threat to the whole universe in his series? I mean, he's Omnimon. He's like one of the strongest Digimon, isn't he? I think that what the strongest is Z Millenniumon, but Omnimon should still be pretty high up on the pecking order. I mean, come on. You're just putting the guy up for die now. Asta versus pre-war arc Naruto. I'm gonna go with Naruto at the moment. If Gray teamed up with Natsu to fight Sting and Rogue instead of Gajeel, I mean, they still would have won. I mean, Natsu could have fought, or Natsu did beat both of them by himself. Like, what would change there? I mean, he probably wouldn't have argued with him and pushed him off the edge. It would have been a much more vicious beating, and it would have probably been just as aggressive towards the two, if not more aggressive, just an all-around stomping in their favor. But well, that version of at that time, I'd say Gray wasn't as strong as Gajeel. I think Gajeel was stronger at the time, and then obviously at the time of the Tartarus arc, that Gajeel ended up falling behind Gray because Gray got that huge boost. Have you seen these videos about Todd Habercorn in the 100 Years class? I've talked to Sammy about it. I told him to quit doing so many clickbait things. I mean, Todd Habercorn doesn't fucking know. I mean, was the video also even confirmed he said it, or could have just been somebody like putting a title over a screen cap? I mean, regardless, how does Todd Habercorn know? I mean, has Hiro Mishima made any hints? Has there been any hints from a studio? I'm not going to take some dub voice actor's word as whether or not we're going to get a series animated. I mean, did he say what studio? Is there anything else other than him saying, oh yeah, they're going to animate it? I mean, he also said that he was hoping they'd animate it shortly prior, and then, like, what was the reason that... What was his confirmation? What was his source? We just take his word at face value? It's silly. Gray versus Gajeel. Gray versus pre-Grand Magic Games Gajeel. Oh, wait. Gray versus Gajeel now, I'd go with Gray. I'd go with Gray as of current. I mean, Gajeel's powerful, but Gray just seems like, I don't know, he's got a higher level of ladder he's going right now. Pre-Grand Magic Games, Gray versus Marileona. Marileona. I mean, if you put it, you would need Tartarus Arc and Beyond Gray to really deal with Marileona. I mean, really. Anyway, I'm going to call it good for this stream. I appreciate everyone for showing up, and I hope that you guys all have some pretty good times. I'm glad we had some nice conversations. Nozel versus Fuegoleon. Fuegoleon, I mean, Nozel can't defeat him right now. But other than that, wrap it up. Had a pretty solid stream, a little over an hour, 20 minutes. And I had fun talking to you guys. And look forward to this week's character discussion videos. There is no Fairy Tail this week, sadly. But there is next week, and we're going to get closer to Heroes. Heroes announced on October the 16th. And I think around that time they're going to be doing a stream of the gameplay for the Fairy Tail game. So look forward to that. But other than that, I appreciate everyone for showing up. I thank you all for coming.